Well, on Parliament Hill today, Prime Minister Mark Carney is meeting with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. The pair is set to discuss an energy deal based on that memorandum of understanding that they signed last year.
We're working to make Canada work better for Albertans and for all Canadians. And when Canada works well, it's good for the world. And I think you probably, I'm sure you did. I certainly hear it when I go around the world and meet our partners that they want more Canada and more Alberta.
Still have a few things to work out. And I hope that we can get to the finish line on signing that MOU. I know industry is getting a bit impatient. Albertans are getting a little bit impatient. And if we're going to move forward with that MOU, I hope it happens in the next number of days, because I think in Alberta, there does need to be a demonstration that Canada can work.
Now, this visit comes amid evolving negotiations between the federal government and Alberta over energy projects and environmental regulations. The CBC's Janice McGregor has more now on today's meeting and the Premier's busy agenda while she's in Ottawa.
She's actually the featured keynote as the day goes on at the Canada Strong and Free Networks conference here in town for Conservative activists. And we'll see if sort of reporters have a chance to put some questions to her as the day goes on sort of around that event. But when you put two leaders in a room and they do have things to work out, as we understand they do in the case of this attempt to be able to move forward with a new pipeline for Alberta's bitumen, it does help these face-to-face conversations when you have sticking points that you're trying to work through. What we understand them to be are primarily two things. The first has to do with the industrial price on carbon. Alberta required to have this in place in order for the federal government to support the project. The federal government wants a timeline, a ramping up of that price to be much faster, much shorter horizon than what Alberta and, of course, the private sector industry partners that Danielle Smith is sort of lobbying for and wants to partner with and work with on this pipeline. Longer horizon than rather a shorter horizon than what the industry and the province would like to see. So that's one of the things, the carbon price. But the other thing has to do with carbon capture and storage. This was a major investment, a pitch, if you will, from the Oil Sands Alliance to be able to offset the carbon emissions from increased oil production with this kind of new idea, facility to sort of trap the carbon in an innovative way. The federal government said yes, it would invest in this, would greenlight this. But earlier this week, the Oil Sands Alliance started making noises that, in fact, it feels that investments can't really move ahead at this time because the regulatory burden on them still remains too high in terms of what, for example, the federal government imposes before it's prepared to greenlight projects. Now, CBC News this week has been reporting that the Carney government is taking another stab at bringing in legislation to change several acts and make it faster for regulatory approval to be granted for a project like that, and not necessarily even requiring any more a national interest designation, but some changes that would be in place across the board to cover a broader array of different things. The Prime Minister, though, on Wednesday, and got a bit of tape here just to remind people of his position, was still at the same time insisting that even as these projects move forward, Canada does need to be working to bring its emissions down if it wants to diversify its energy exports to new markets, particularly in Europe and Asia.
One of the key selling points for Canadian conventional energy will be that it's low risk. Canada is the lowest risk jurisdiction. Low cost, low marginal cost. We are continuing to work on that. And low carbon. That's what the Government of Canada is working with the Government of Alberta in order to produce a comprehensive approach through our MOU. We're making good progress on that, and that's going to make the oil sands more competitive. It's going to make Canada more competitive.
One of Carney's arguments is that with energy prices spiking right now, the industry really can't plead poverty anymore as an excuse for not doing this. However, the Trump administration has also opened up a new option for the oil and gas industry, the new possibility of new pipelines heading south, so they could perhaps ramp up production even if Smith's pipeline doesn't go ahead.
And of course, there will be no shortage of topics for these two to discuss, because this meeting also comes amid the fallout over that voter data breach involving Alberta separatists. So I wonder whether or not that might come up in that meeting today.
Well, it has to be the elephant in the room, right? You heard Smith there talk about the need for Alberta to see a demonstration of the federal government wanting to work with Alberta. Of course, resource industry's long grievance that Ottawa is holding them back, right? And it fuels separatism in Alberta. But the Prime Minister at the same time has also spoken out about the inappropriateness and his concern about the disclosure of Alberta's voters list and how serious this is. And of course, we've also had some analysis this week from foreign interference watchdogs pointing out that separatist messages have been amplified by sources known to have origins in Russia and also Trump-backed U.S. American forces sort of helping to amplify those messages. So this is all getting really serious really fast. Danielle Smith has obtained security clearance to be able to start receiving intelligence briefings to understand the national security implications here, darkening into potentially something very serious for her party in Alberta, but also national unity as a whole.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thank you.